Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, She Sews Happiness. I'm Mary Ellen and this is my latest Sunday Sews, where I briefly catch up with you about what I have managed to get sewing over the course of the week. And while I did not sew at all during the week because my work week is increasingly demanding, and to be honest, I'm at the stage where that inevitability of burnout feels not so far away. So I know this week I have a very full-on schedule, but I think the week after that I might be able to take a couple of days off and actually just enjoy my own time, get some sewing done and catch up on a few projects that have been on the back burner now for a long time. So thank you again for coming back to my channel, and while it will be a brief video this week, it's still worth coming and catching up and sharing with you what I've learned and what I've made. So the first thing I have to say, actually, because I keep getting asked about it and I always forget to mention it, is what I'm actually wearing. So today's outfit is the Jennifer Lauren Handmade Gable top, but as is my standard, it's a dress. And you can see here it's got this pleated little skirt and it's just under the knee. It's really nice. I'll actually pop a picture in for you. This is one of my favourite jersey patterns, and I'm not really into tops. Separates are very rare in my wardrobe, and even when I make them I find that I never reach for them, so really it's quite wasteful and not sustainable. And I guess that's what I'm talking about today, is my favourite hack, which is literally to add a skirt to the top patterns that I do like. But if you haven't made the gable top or the gable dress, it's very easy to take the gable top pattern, if you've got it, and turn it into a dress, whether that be by adding an A-line or a gathered skirt or the pleated skirt, which actually comes in the expansion pack that you can buy from Jennifer Lauren. You can buy the expansion pack that comes with both the pleated skirt version and the gathered skirt pieces, which have a little bit of shaping built into them. So it's not just as simple as a rectangle, let's just put it that way. And of course they have their pockets as well. But it is one of my favourite jersey patterns, and I've made this in quite a heavy fabric. So this is actually a French terry that I've made this from. But I love this. I bought this way back at Christmas time from the rag shop, which has now sadly closed, and their fabrics were just a real go-to for me. The rag shop and Jenny Stitches are two of my most returning to shops. They just seem to have lots of florals and lots of the prints that I really orient to, and that's where I seem to go. But yeah, I got this back last December time, and I think it was called Spring Flowers, and funny enough, come spring I actually sewed it up into this dress. And I know it's June, but outside there's a storm, it's blowing a gale, it's pouring down, so I do find myself going for my trusty clothing that has a bit more heat and warmth in it. So that's the thing about living in Ireland. You don't tend to sew for the seasons at all. You sew for any season and you layer your pieces appropriately. That's just island life, I'm afraid. But yeah, if you haven't made the gable top or the gable dress before, I do recommend it, especially if you're starting out on your sewing journey. It's a really straightforward, simple make, and quite effective, I think, too. If you love that vintage look, you've got this lovely neckline here, which just seems to give it a little bit of elegance or class, might we say, which is really why I orient towards kind of like 30s, 40s, 50s shapes and silhouettes anyhow, just for that extra little bit of charm. So as I say, really simple sew. It's actually a really quick sew as well. There's nothing that complicated about it. All you need are your basic sewing with jersey skills. And if you're scared of sewing with jersey, there is a video earlier on in my channel that will completely demystify it and make it so much more easier if it's something that intimidates you. And I know it does intimidate quite a lot of people. I've actually met a couple of people who've been sewing for much longer than me and are terrified of sewing with jersey. So if you're in that camp, go check that out, and hopefully you'll get all the tips that you need to make you feel much more confident about sewing with it. So yeah, I think with this dress as well, because I like the fitted look. I've actually sized down in this pattern. That's just how I prefer to wear my clothes. And again, it's entirely up to you, I suppose. But there's a couple of things just to be aware of. If you're going to make the long sleeves, which I did previously for a different make, I don't know who they were drafted for, and I know Jennifer Lawrence patterns are usually drafted for somebody who is about 5'6" but I do remember when I first made the long length version of the sleeves, I can't even remember how much I took off them. I think maybe it was about 2.5 inches, and I could have taken a little bit more. So this time I stayed with the safety of 3/4 length sleeves, which I think is more wearable throughout seasons anyhow, because come winter I'll just throw a cardigan on top of this, and that's where I'll get my extra heat from. But yeah, really lovely pattern, really simple pattern. There are 3 sleeve lengths to choose from, so if you want them shorter, you've got that option there as well. And of course that's an easy adjustment to make even if it didn't come with the pattern pieces. I've made both the gathered skirt and the pleated, and this is the first time I actually made the pleated version, and I do prefer it. I just thought with the structure in this French terry gathering was going to be totally unflattering, so I went for the pleats, which do lie nice and straight across the stomach area, and that's what you need sometimes, is a little bit of a silhouette, and a gathered skirt just would have accentuated that more than I was willing to think about. But yeah, apart from that, what else do I need to advise you about making this? I think one of the things as well is the neckline. So on me, you can see my little slash neckline is sitting quite high. I have literally stitched it in according to the pattern line. And that works for me. But if you find that you don't like anything that high on your neck and you need to bring it down a little bit, I know Jennifer Lawrence has created a video and a tutorial on her blog, which will help you to get the neckline to sit very comfortably where you need it to sit. But no, I didn't make any adjustments because I loved it, and the only thing I have done with this pattern is to size down to get that nice tight shape. With stretch, you've got a little bit more give there, so you can afford to do that sometimes. I think as well, to sew this up, it took me about 1.5 hours, so not a long time. And I have to say, do you know, there's been something that's really been bothering me recently, and it's seeing all these makes on Instagram and people are like, oh, this is the quickest sew ever. And you're like, I can tell you why. Like, the hem isn't done, all the buttons aren't finished. And I'm like, there are patterns that you can sew in a day and finish immaculately. And I know I'm a bit fussy, but I'm all about finishing immaculately. There's a big difference to me about sewing for yourself and sewing to a standard than just sewing something. And for me, I'm sewing to a standard to ensure that my clothing is durable and lasting, that it's not going to be like the fast fashion that we used to put into our wardrobes, and after a few wears it falls apart and needs thrown out. So I am so fussy when I'm sewing. And I suppose that's probably why I'm slow as well. I don't sew as fastly as a lot of people, but that really is down to the meticulousness that I enforce upon myself. I am a bit of a perfectionist, I have to admit. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing. So I've covered that for the first time, I think, since I first started making these videos. And I remembered that all the people who were asking me what I was wearing, I've answered your question today. And maybe even today you weren't even concerned about it, but there we are. I'll have to get myself into the habit. So what have I actually made this week? It's behind me. So as I was saying in my Sunday Sews episode last week, I had a couple of projects that I wanted to make, but time was totally against me, and the only day I've had to sew was yesterday, Saturday. So I did set myself the very simple task of making myself a Friday Pattern Company Adrienne top hacked into a dress, and you can see it's the easiest hack possible. But I have to admit, I'm somebody who does have several Adrienne blouses in my wardrobe, and they're beautiful, and I'm going to have to gift them to somebody or something because they're lying there not being used, and it really upsets me actually. So they're too nice to lie in a wardrobe taking up space and not be worn. So yeah, I have to hack things to make them wearable for me. And I love top patterns and I keep buying them, and then I realize I'm never going to wear that, so stick a skirt on it. So yeah, I think the fabric here, again, you're going to look and go like, this is June, why is this girl, you know, making winter clothes? because it's like winter outside. And when the weather is awful and dreary and sad, I make clothes that are appropriate for that weather. And I know I should be in the full flow of sewing for summer, but until summer rears her head, there's really not much point because I won't get to wear them. So the fabric that I've chosen is a beautiful metallic sweater knit fabric, which has been gifted to me by Minerva, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's so soft, it sews up so wonderfully, it doesn't get caught in the machine or anything like that, which I was dreading when I saw the metallic going through it. It's also incredibly soft on the skin, so the underside, I might just have to grab this for you. So yeah, the underside of the fabric is not harsh on the skin at all. And you know, when you see that fabric, you think it might be a little bit grizzly, but it's not even remotely. And that can be worn on the skin without any irritation, which is a bonus. But I loved it. I love anything that has that metallic through it. And I think it's so simple, this pattern. Let me see if I can just move this a little bit so you can see it more clearly. Let me see. So really, essentially, all you've got are your front and back pieces. You've got your little neckline pieces with your two sleeves, which you then loop into some lingerie elastic, and it is important that you use the right kind of elastic. And then you have these big billowy sleeves. Your sleeve patterns are twice the size of your body pattern, which are then elasticated to sit comfortably at the bottom. And then you will see I have added this gathered skirt. Now I was saying that it is particularly important to use the right kind of elastic. And let me just move my camera across again. And I definitely find a big difference between using like a generic elastic and using lingerie elastic. For one, it's incredibly comfortable on your shoulders, and for two, it doesn't stretch out as much over time, so it's a little bit more long lasting, gives you that longevity, making your garment much more sustainable. So yeah, I absolutely love this, and it's really simple to take this blouse and turn it into a dress. Literally, I just found my waistline on the pattern piece, kept my 5/8 of an inch, and then I added a gathered skirt. And one thing to notice as well is this is very gently gathered, because what you will find is if you created a huge gathered skirt piece, the weight of that skirt would pull that blouse down so that your measurements would be all awry, and it would be really difficult to get it to sit exactly where you wanted it. So for me, it's about using the bare minimum to get that gathered look. And I've used the skill that I learnt from making all of my Monetta dresses, and that is sewing in the gathers by using elastic. And I think I've probably recommended this to you before, but I have it sitting here. This is the elastic I use to get that look. So it's the Frame Elastic T6, and for me it is the only elastic worth sewing into your garments, whether that be on your shoulders and things to keep your garments in place, or your waistbands to make sure they don't stretch out. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's where I'm at. I didn't even get a start on my Lucida dress, and it's been put to the back burner because I've been sewing enough with jersey for the moment. And while I'm on the note about sewing with jersey, I have to say this sewed up in no time whatsoever, because I didn't have to use a triple stretch stitch, didn't have to use a lightning stitch, didn't have to use a zigzag stitch. My jersey was sewn up with just a normal straight stitch. And the reason I was able to do that was that I used this thread here, which is the Gutermann Maraflex, and it has elastic built into the thread, and it is incredible. So I don't know if you can see, but I can stretch that quite a lot. And so that's what I use to stitch up my dress. And it probably halves the time because, as you all know, a straight stitch is much faster than any others. And I was surprised. I actually thought that it would tear and it would break, but this is incredibly strong, incredibly resistant. But if you're sewing with jersey, get this stuff. This stuff makes a huge difference, and I think it comes in a pretty good variety of colours as well for the purposes of matching, so why wouldn't you? And then I'll have to share with you what I'm sewing with next. So I've actually begun the process of cutting out my next project. It's going to be the Jennifer Lauren Handmade Kinfolk dress, which is a dress I tested recently. It's a dress that is being released, I believe, in 2 weeks or so, maybe 3. And I made it, and you saw a sneak peek of that last week. I made it in a cotton lawn, and I wanted to check out what it would be like in a lighter fabric, so I'm a bit curious that way. So I have here this gorgeous floral viscose. This again was gifted by Minerva. Then this is a lovely fabric. The quality of this is fantastic. You can't see through it at all, and I think this cost about £5.99 a metre, so it's not an expensive fabric, but it just feels so beautiful, and this will be perfect for summer if it ever comes. But again, it'll be perfect for any season because that navy background just means it'll work transitionally throughout my wardrobe. But I love a large scale rose print, and I do have a wee bit left over after cutting out my dress, so I'm thinking I might try to squeeze out a patina blouse from that as well, which would be lovely just tucked into a skirt or something like that. But yes, that's on the agenda for this week. And that'll probably be all I get done this week. I have to admit, maybe next week I will get a lot more on my cutting and sewing tables. But yeah, we'll start small and see where we go. So thank you again for coming back to the channel. Do let me know if there's any tops that you have hacked into dresses, because I'm always up to see some new patterns. I haven't bought myself a new pattern in a little while actually, because I've had 2 or 3 testers and focused on those, so I'm overdue a little treat to myself. So if there's anything that you have been hacking, do share that with me in the comments. And as I say, thank you for coming back to my channel again and again. Thank you for subscribing. It means a lot to me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do give this video a like. And if you click on the little notification bell, it'll tell you when I've next posted my video, which should at least be every Sunday, unless something goes horribly wrong. But yes, thank you again for coming back. Enjoy what's left of your weekend and have a fantastic week until I see you again. So take care and happy sewing. Bye bye.